Hello again. My name is Beth Smith and I am the classical librarian. Today we're going to share a Grimm's fairy tale. Let me tell you a little bit about the Grimm's fairy tales. They were written by the brothers Grimm in the late 1700s and into the 1800s. They would write these stories and make them up. Fairy tales often contain magic and have talking animals and sometimes bad characters like witches. We run into those some, and well, sorts of magic happen in fairy tales too. Today I'm going to read you a story that is a little known Grimm's tale. It is called The Golden Bird. We'll get to Cinderella and Snow White and Little Red Riding Hood, some of the ones that you may have heard of, but I think you're going to enjoy The Golden Bird. There's some magic in it, certainly, and a few talking animals. So let's see what you think of this. The Golden Bird, a Grimm's fairy tale. A certain king had a beautiful garden, and in that garden stood a tree which bore golden apples. Now these apples were always counted, and about the time that they began to grow ripe, it was found that every night one of them would go missing. The king became very angry at this, and he ordered the gardener to keep watch all night under the tree. So the gardener sent his eldest son to watch, but at about 12 o'clock he fell asleep, and in the morning another of the apples was missing. Then the second son was ordered to set watch, and again at midnight he too fell fast asleep. And in the morning, yet another apple was gone. Then the third son offered to keep watch, but the gardener at first would not let him for fear that harm might come to him. However, at last he consented, and the young man laid himself under the tree to watch. As the clock struck 12, he began to hear a rustling noise in the air, and a bird came flying. And that bird was made of pure gold. And it was snapping at one of the apples with its beak. And the gardener's son jumped up and he shot an arrow at it. But the arrow missed the bird and brought it no harm, only dropping a golden feather from its tail. And then the bird flew away. The golden feather was brought to the king in the morning, and all the council was called together. Everyone agreed that it was worth a great deal. And finally the king said, "One feather is of no use to me at this time. I should have the whole bird." So the gardener's oldest son set out and thought he would find the golden bird very easily. And when he was been gone a little ways, he came to the woods. And by the side of the woods he saw a fox sitting there. And so he took his bow and he made ready to shoot it. Then the fox said, "Do not shoot me, for I will give you good counsel. I know what your business is and that you want to find the golden bird. You will reach a village in the evening, and when you get there, there will be two inns opposite of each other. The one which is very pleasant and beautiful to look at, and the other one which is not. In fact, it is kind of rumble down. So you will go into the one that is not beautiful to look at, and you will spend the night." But when the son thought to himself, "Well, why would this beast help me in that manner?" So he shot his arrow at the fox, but he missed it, and it set up its tail above its back, and it ran off into the woods. Then he went on his way, and in the evening he came to the village where there were two inns. And in one of them were people singing and dancing and feasting, and in the other one it looked very dirty and very poor. "Well, I should be silly to go in that shabby house," he said. "I want to go to the charming place." And so indeed he did go into the very smart house, and he drank and ate with ease and forgot all about the bird and forgot his country too. Now time passed as the eldest son had been gone and no one had heard from him. So the second son set out on the same trail, thinking he would find the golden bird. And it wasn't long before he came upon the fox. And the fox told him the same thing. And he went into the village and he saw the two inns, and he decided that he should also stay at the lovely inn. And when he looked there, standing in the window was his brother, beckoning him to come in. He too went in to the inn, and he forgot all about his country. So time passed again, and not hearing from the second son, they assumed that he was lost. And finally, the youngest son said to his father that he wished to go and hunt for the golden bird. Well, his father was reluctant, but he agreed to let him go, and so he took out hunting for the golden bird. However, as he was walking from the village, away from the village, he decided to go a different path, but he still ran into the fox. And the fox gave him some helpful hints because he did not try to take his life. In fact, he said, "If you will sit upon my tail, we will travel faster." So he sat down and the fox began to run, and away they went over the hill and dale so quickly that the wind whistled in his hair. When they came to the village, the son followed the fox's counsel, and without looking at the lovely inn, he went into the shabby inn and rested there all night. And then in the morning, the fox came again, and he began his journey again. And he told him, "If you go straight forward, you will come to a castle. And there will be a castle, but there will be a whole troop of soldiers around that castle. They'll be fast asleep, snoring. Take no notice of them, but go into the castle, pass on and on until you come to a room. And in that room is where the golden bird sits. Now he'll be in a wooden cage. And close by there will be a beautiful cage of golden, a beautiful golden cage. But do not try to take the bird out of the shabby cage and put it into the golden cage. Otherwise, you will be in trouble." Then the fox stretched out his tail again, and the young man sat down himself, and away they went over the hill and through the dale, and with the wind whistling through his hair. Before the castle gate, all was as the fox had said. So the son went in, and he found the chamber where the golden bird was kept, and he indeed was hanging in a wooden cage. And below him was the beautiful golden cage. And there were the 3 golden apples that had been lost. Then he thought to himself, it would be a very droll thing to bring in such a fine bird in a shabby cage. And so he opened the door and took hold of the bird and put it into the golden cage. But the bird set up with such a loud screech that all the soldiers awoke, and they took him prisoner, and they carried him before the king. And the next morning, the whole court came to judge him. And when they heard what he had done, they sentenced him to die, unless he could bring back the king his golden horse, which had run as swiftly away as the wind. If he did this, he could have the golden bird for his own. So he set out once more on his journey, sighing and in great despair, when all of a sudden his friend the fox met him. He said, "You now see what happens on your account when you're not listening to my counsel. I will, however, still help you. So I know where the golden horse is, and if you will do as I bid you, you will find him. You must go straight away until you come to another castle. And there the horse will stand in the stall, and by his side there will lay a groom sleeping. I want you to take the very old leather saddle and put it on the horse to ride it out. Now there will be a golden saddle there by the horse as well, but don't touch the golden saddle." So the son sat down on the tail of the fox, and away they went over the hill and through the dale, until they came to the castle. And everything was just as the fox had said it would be. And the young boy went into the stall, and he laid his hand upon the horse. And he thought to himself, "I should really give him the golden saddle." And when he did, he took that saddle down, and all the guards woke up, and they took him prisoner. And in the morning, the courts came to see that king, and it was determined that he should die. But it was agreed that if he could bring a beautiful princess to the king, that he would live and he could have the bird and the horse for his own. So he went away very sorrowful. But the old fox came and said, "Why did you not listen to me? If you had, you would have carried away both the bird and the horse. Yet I will once more give you counsel. At 12 o'clock at night, the princess goes to the bathing house. Go get her and give her a kiss, and she will let you lead her away. But take care that you do not suffer her, and take leave of her father and mother." So the fox stretched out his tail, and once again the boy got on the tail, and off they went. And they came to the castle. All was as the fox had said, and at 12 o'clock at night, the young princess went to the bathing house. And the boy bent down and gave her a kiss, and she agreed to run away with him. But she begged him through many, many tears to say goodbye to her father and mother. At first he refused, but her weeping made his heart hurt, and he felt bad. So at last he consented. But at the moment she came to her father's house, the guards awoke, and they was taken prisoner yet again. So he was brought before the king, and the king said, "You shall never have my daughter unless in 8 days you dig away the hill that stops the view from my window." Now the hill was so big that the whole world could not take that away. And so the young boy went out and he began working for 7 days. And he had done all that he could, but it was still very little. And the fox came to him and he said, "Lie down and go to sleep. I will work for you." And in the morning when he awoke, the hill was gone. So he went merrily to the king, and he told him now that he had removed the hill and that he must give him the princess. The king was obliged to keep his word and went away, the young man and the princess. And the fox came to him and said, "We will have all three, the princess, the horse, and the bird." "Ah," said the young man, "that would be a great thing. But how can we do that?" "Well, if you will listen to me, it can be done. When you come to the king, he will ask for the beautiful princess, and you must say, 'Here she is.' And then he will be very joyful, and you will mount the golden horse that they will give to you. But you will put one hand out to take the leave of them, and shake the hand of the princess last. And when you shake her hand, lift her quickly onto the horse behind you, and clap your spur into his sides, and gallop away as fast as you can." And all went just so. And then the fox said, "Now, when you come to the castle where the bird is, I will stay with the princess at the door, and you will ride in and speak with the king, and when he sees that it is the right horse, he will bring out the bird. But you will sit still and say that you want to look at it, and say whether it is truly the golden bird. And then when you get it into your hands, you'll ride away." This too happened just as the fox said. And the young man carried off the bird, and he had the princess mounted on the horse with him. And so they rode into the great woods. And then the fox came again and said, "Pray, please kill me and cut off my head and feet." But the young man refused to do it. So the fox said, "I will give you one last bit of counsel. Beware of 2 things. Ransom no one from the gallows, and sit down by the side of no river." Well, thought the young man, that's not hard to keep that advice. So he rode with the princess until at last he came to the village where he had left his 2 brothers. And there he heard a great noise and an uproar. And when he asked what was the matter, the people said, "Well, 2 men are going to be hanged." And as he came nearer, he could see that the 2 men were his brothers, when they had turned into robbers. So he said, "Cannot they be saved?" But the people said, "No, not unless he would bestow all of his money upon the rascals and buy their liberty." Well, then he did not know what to think about the matter, But he paid what was asked, and his brothers were given up, and they all went with him toward their home. And as they came to the woods where the fox first met them, it was so cool and pleasant that the two brothers said, "Let us sit here by the river for a while and rest and eat and drink." So he said yes, and he'd forgotten all about the fox's counsel. He sat down by the river, and while he was suspecting nothing, they came up behind him, and they threw him down the bank and took the princess, the horse, and the bird. And then they went home to see the king, their master. And he said, "All this we have won by our own labor." Then there was great rejoicing made, but the horse would not eat and the bird would not sing, and the princess wept. Well, the youngest son fell to the bottom of the riverbed. Luckily, it was nearly dry, but his bones were almost broken, and the bank was so steep that he could not find a way to get out. Then the old fox came once more, and he scolded him for not following his advice. Otherwise, no evil would have befallen him. Yet he said, "I cannot leave you here, so hold on to my tail fast." And then he pulled him out of the river, and he said to them as he got upon the bank, "Your brothers have set watch to kill you. If they find you in the kingdom, they will do that." So he dressed himself up as a poor old man, and he came secretly to the king's court and was scarcely within the doors when the horse began to eat and the bird began to sing, and the princess stopped weeping. And then he went to the king, and he told him of his brother's thievery, and that then his brothers were seized and punished, and he was given the princess, and after the king's death, he became heir to the kingdom. A little while after the king had died, the boy went for a walk one day in the woods, and the old fox met him, and he said to him with tears in his eyes, "Please, please kill me, cut off my head and my feet." Then at last he did so, and for that very moment, the fox changed into a man, and it turned out to be the brother of the princess, who had been lost for a great many years. So you can see there was a little bit of magic in that story. The Grimm's fairy tales were often just a little bit gruesome. So when we think about cutting off the head and the tail of a fox, it's not very pleasant. But it was certainly a great story to share tonight. Have a good day.